Hey there, Internet people, and welcome back to Green Wing Gaming. It's another Monday, so it's time for another hobby discussion video. And today, continuing on with our theme of kind of universal experiences for tabletop gamers, we're going to be talking about power gaming today. Kind of a juicier topic than what I normally like to delve into, but who doesn't like a little gossipy hating on our fellow gamers? But seriously, power gaming is one of those things that you're gonna run into at some point in your tabletop journey. But because it's more of a subjective topic, I thought we would approach it a little bit differently. This is gonna be maybe the first time on the channel I'm gonna be using examples from my own life, because it was the easiest way I could think of to convey what I'm trying to talk about without sitting around here and pitching hypotheticals at you for 20 minutes, which is not going to be at all entertaining. At least I don't think it would be. Because like with power gaming, you know, you ask 6 gamers what power gaming even is, you'll get 7 different answers. So I'm going to relay some of my own experiences with it, because like many other things in life, you might not be able to define it, but you know it when you see it. And then talk a little bit about some ways that you can deal with power gaming, how to react to it, because it can be kind of a tricky social situation to navigate. But you know, before we get too deep into the nitty-gritty of it, I would just like to remind you guys that I am just getting started out on YouTube. This channel is fresh off the presses, so any level of engagement from you guys really does help out the channel. You've already done me a huge solid just by clicking on the video, which, by the way, thank you for that. But I'm hoping that I can ask you very kind, attractive, and super cool strangers on the internet for another favor. Maybe like the video, subscribe, let me know what your own thoughts are down in the comments below. I really would like this to be a discussion. I would like to hear what you guys have to say. But with all of that YouTuber stuff out of the way, we're talking about power gaming, so let's just get into it. Okay, we're talking about power gaming. First of all, what is it? Well, like I said in the intro, it's kind of hard to define, because in my experience, it's really hard to look at any specific physical thing a person can do and say, that's power gaming. That's definitely power gaming. It's nothing but power gaming. You know, if someone brings a really strong list, yeah, maybe they were power gaming, and maybe they were, you know, bent over a calculator into the wee hours of the morning, you know, running the percentages, or maybe they just slapped some units together to see what they would do, and it turned out to be really strong. Maybe they've just been doing it for a while, and they're good at the game. So you have to be a little careful with how you throw around that accusation, but in my opinion, it mostly comes down to mentality. I don't want to give you like a hard and fast rule of anyone who does this is definitely a power gamer, but there's an old saying about pornography. You know, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. It's sort of the same thing with power gaming. I can't tell you definitively when someone is. You'll know it when you spot it, and it's going to be in their attitude, it's going to be in their mentality, in the super sweat lord, gotta consult their codex every 30 seconds, gotta make sure they are min-maxing every sentence in their codex, every rule, every stratagem has to be perfectly aligned, and if it's not, then they're ready to commit ritual suicide, because apparently it's the fate of the world. So power game, and that really is where the problem lies, because like a big thing that I had to question before I even made this video is like, what's really wrong with power gaming? Okay, so someone likes to win. There are worse things in life. It can be a little annoying, but who really cares? If that's how they like to play, then why even make a video about that? Why is that a problem? I like to play very fluffy narrative stuff, just wacky, let's see where it goes. Other people might like something a little more competitive. Why is that bad? And the problem is, a lot of times it can be really unpleasant and really suck the enjoyment out of it. You know, I think last week's video was hobby burnout. Well, as someone who I unfortunately did go through a bit of a sweat lord phase, and it triggered a lot of burnout for me, because like every week was so stressful trying to like worry about my win-loss ratio and and trying, getting so worked up about like the exact wording of particular rules, and it just sucked the fun right out of it, for me at least. And I know it can for a lot of other people, because so many people come to this hobby through the narrative. They come here through the books, or the games, or the artwork. I myself came here through the very first Dawn of War game. Don't look into how old that makes me. Don't even worry about that. But yeah, I bought the first Dawn of War game right when it came out. We're going to pretend like I didn't just tell you how very ancient I am becoming. And I loved it. I loved everything about it. The Space Marines were like the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. Been playing Dark Angels ever since. And just, mostly because I like the color green. It came down to that. But the thing with power gaming is that a lot of us came to this, like I said, through the narrative. And so you, as a player, might want to do something really wacky in narrative, and might want to just kind of slap together a list, put down your favorite named character, and depending on the edition, that might be putting you at a real disadvantage. In 8th edition, a lot of named characters were actually pretty good. Here in 9th, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I have not brought a single Dark Angels named character in all of 9th edition, because you can't give them relics. They're tied down to a particular warlord trait. You can't give them an extra warlord trait. It's genuinely actually better. You get more variety and more versatility bringing a non-named character, just a generic character. They're more versatile. They are objectively more versatile. And so I can think of maybe like 4, maybe 5 named characters in the game that are still worth taking, that like if you're going to play hyper competitive, you would still maybe consider taking these. Other than that, there's a lot of named characters out there that if you take them, you're at an immediate disadvantage. And that's just one example. You might want to take a super fluffy themed list for like a Blood Angels jump pack assault with a lot of Assault Marines, a lot of Vanguard veterans. Well, the problem is Assault Marines are not a competitive choice. And so if you're playing up against a power gamer who treats everything like it's a grand tournament, it's not even that you won't win, because I'm a huge advocate that, one, you learn more about the game from your losses than you do from your victories, but also, like, who cares? It's a game. You lose, no big deal. My thing is that not only will your super fluffy list likely not win, it's probably not even going to be a very good game, because your average power gamey meta list really exposes the statistics in it all. It is relying on the math of it all. You're kind of gaming the dice system, using your knowledge of statistics and kind of manipulating the rules. And it's going to be a total slaughter. You're not just going to beat the metagamer, the power gamer won't just win. It'll be a complete one-sided mess where it's not even fun to watch. If even with no skin in the game, you probably wouldn't enjoy it because it's so one-sided. Think of if you've ever watched a battle report on YouTube or anywhere else, and if you've ever clicked off a video because, like, wow, this was literally over by turn 2. Like, there's no point in watching because it's so one-sided. But, like, even the people, like, filming the battle report, they know it's over, you know it's over, there's no point in watching. And it can really suck the joy out of it. And it can really... And I found that power gaming a lot of time can really just bring a level of toxicity and a lot of... it can drain any sense of community out of a room. Because you're so fixated on what you want, and you need to win every game, and you need to be, the local god of Warhammer, that you no longer care about what's happening to the other players. You don't care about what kind of experience they're having, and you're not really in it for, like, the wacky good times. And it just really becomes work. Why would you want to turn this hobby into your job? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I think it does do real harm, and it does destroy other people's fun. So that's a little bit on what it is in my little sermon about its consequences, but I guess the only real question is, how do we deal with it? Because you're never going to stop power gaming. You're not. The writers of the rules at Games Workshop, and for other games as well, have been trying to outthink power gamers and meta gamers for as long as these games have existed. It's never worked. They will find a way to game the system. It will happen. And so at a certain point, you're not talking about stopping power gamers. You're talking about how you are going to deal with them, because in my experience, there's like 3 broad reactions that people will typically fall back on. The first 2 are the most common, and unfortunately, in my estimation, they're like the least effective, because they actually kind of feed into that really like toxic unpleasantness. The first one is, if the first reaction that I see to power gaming is, if you can't beat them, join them, double down and try to out-power game the power gamer. You just spend all your time crafting your list to try and just always win no matter what. That's what ended up happening to me. So I'm going to give you my first example of power gaming, the one that I first encountered. I think in the intro I said I was going to do 2. I'm probably just going to do this one, because looking at the timer, this video is already getting a little long. But prime example of a power gamer, it's not even necessarily that he crafted super broken lists. It's that whenever he spotted a new faction being really like top tier in the kind of meta competitive tournament scene, or being just like the really dominant faction of the game at that moment, suddenly, with that, you could almost set your watch by it. Like within the week, suddenly he would be telling me, oh, how he's always been such a lifelong fan of that faction, and he just really thought it was a good time to start playing that faction. And he would look up at whatever the actual meta list was and would build that list, claiming, oh no, it's just where I felt like I wanted to develop the list. And the weird thing is, this was not a bad dude. I know a lot of how I'm talking about power gaming right now paints a really like negative, hate these people kind of attitude. This guy was one of my good friends for a long time. I still consider him a friend. I just haven't seen him in a while, because of the consequences of what I'm about to describe to you. When I first encountered him, it was kind of partway through 8th edition, when Imperial Knights were the dominant faction. They were stomping everyone out. They were the terrors of the Eternal War mission pack. And they were winning tournaments left and right, and there was not many people could do about them, unless you were bringing a dedicated anti-knight list. I showed up looking for a casual game at my local games workshop, met him for the first time, and he promptly stomped me out. It was not even close. It was not a good game. There were no crazy cool moments. There was nothing enjoyable about it. I didn't walk away from it feeling like, this crazy thing happened. No, he just stomped me out. It was over by, like, I think end of turn 2, we ended up calling it, because he had destroyed my army. And it wasn't particularly fun. I didn't leave with a negative impression of him, but I didn't form a friendship with him for quite some time after that. And then, lo and behold, as much as I knew him to be like a hardcore knight player, like a month later, Death Guard became the new thing, and suddenly he was collecting Death Guard. And that was his favorite faction of all time. The big problem there was that he kept hopping from army to army and wouldn't really focus in on one. And he ended up spending a lot of money on a lot of models. None of his armies were painted. He would kind of partially paint them and then give up and move on to another army. And the weird thing was, even for a little while, he tried to hop on the Dark Angels bandwagon when there was like a brief resurgence of like Azrael leading a Devastator castle. I'm not going to go into what that strategy was. We can maybe talk about that later if I decide to start doing like the history of what used to be good in Warhammer. I wouldn't hold your breath on that one. But all of a sudden, because that had a resurgence, suddenly guess who was playing an Azrael Hellblaster Devastator castle? Suddenly it was all the heavy weapons he could get with a named character that was really good at the time, and that was all he was doing. Suddenly he was all about that, and he had some really great Dark Angels models, and then when it wasn't the meta anymore, I never saw those models again. And eventually he got so burnt out of having to learn all these books, trying to keep them all in his head, having all of these half-finished armies and all the money he had spent, and yet none of his armies were really complete. All of his armies were kind of half formed. And he got so frustrated that honestly, he just one day stopped playing Warhammer. He just couldn't. He got so wrapped up in winning and got so wrapped up in the constant fist clenching need to be the winner that he just burned himself out. And he stopped. He basically went and made the rounds of telling her, "Hey guys, I'm not going to be playing anymore." And he and I kept in touch for a little while. We were in a D&D campaign together. But then ultimately, he just kind of fell off the face of the earth, and I haven't seen him in quite some time, which is a shame. But like I said, this is the consequence of power gaming, of that constant need to win. It can really push you into some even like financially bad decisions. Like I said, this guy spent a lot of money, and none of it resulted in a fully formed Warhammer collection. So kind of distributing his resources in an ill-advised fashion. But that was probably the biggest example of power gaming I've ever seen. There was another one I was going to use, but I think this one kind of gets my point across. And the best way you can deal with it, the three main reactions I was kind of just, I think I mentioned it a second ago, that I was going to talk about. The first one, like I said, is if you can't beat them, join them. And metagame your heart out and try to defeat them, try to, out-metagame the metagamer. And that just sounds like a really good way to, like I just described, it can really end up burning you out. And you're gonna get right down in the mud with the power gamer they'll drag you down to their level and win by experience, as Mark Twain once said. Of course, he wasn't talking about power gaming, but we're gonna just cruise right past that. So joining them, maybe not the best idea. Sinking down to their level, because it can really backfire on you. The other big reaction, like the second most common reaction I see to power gaming, is the "let's call them out" reaction. And don't get me wrong, I totally understand that mentality. I totally understand the desire to call them out and say, "Hey, you're power gaming. Wow, way to be a sweat lord. Seethe, cope, malt, be mad," all that stuff, all that kind of gamer talk. But the problem with calling someone out is that, not all power gamers are cheaters. Have I met power gamers who cheat? Sure, absolutely. Definitely seen it. More often than not, though, they're not cheating. They're just being super salty in how they conduct the game. And if you're going to call somebody out for that when they haven't technically done anything wrong, at a certain point, you're just bullying them for how they like to play. And that's a really good way to leave other people, kind of leave the situation where, hey, you could have gone in there and later been complaining about this power gamer, and everybody would be, kind of consoling, "Oh, that sucks, man." And instead, everyone who saw that was like, "Wow, you were being kind of a dick to that guy." And all of a sudden, you're the bad guy. All of a sudden, you're the problem, and everyone's kind of looking at you sideways, like, "Wow, really? Did you really need to go there?" It doesn't usually come out the way you're imagining it in your head. When you imagine calling out a power gamer, it usually doesn't go the way you think it's gonna. You're not gonna change their mind. I have never once seen someone get called out for power gaming and then they stopped power gaming. Never seen it, probably never will. Again, unless they get caught blatantly cheating, yeah, you're calling them out is gonna do a whole lot of nothing. You're gonna sacrifice the moral high ground, and just look how that worked out for Anakin Skywalker. Alright. Not a great idea. That's searingly contemporary movie reference. But so these first two options, these first two reactions, like I said, most common and least effective. In my opinion, the best reactions I've ever seen to power gaming, the ones that really kind of took the power back, oddly enough, are the guys who just decided to not care. To just not give a crap and just not... Almost to the point where it's just I genuinely don't care who wins or loses this game. Could not care less what the outcome is. I like the models. I like my expensive toy soldiers. I like the lore. I'm here to have fun. If you win, hope it makes you feel good about yourself. Don't care. Could not care less. Because, first of all, if you somehow manage to turn it around and beat the power gamer, it's all the sweeter because you did it while being super chill. And that power gamer, and you get to then watch that power gamer, like, spontaneously combust and just crisp to ashes. You know, literally Thanos snap reduced to atoms. But even if you lose to the power gamer, if you're super chill about it, that power gamer, the moment he wins, first thing he's probably going to do is run around the store crooning about his great victory and what an amazing game it was and how triumphant his victory was. And no one's going to care. People are going to, you know what he'll get? Oh, cool, that was sweet, bro. Glad you won. And then they move on. Meanwhile, the super chill guy who lost can be sitting there telling stories. Oh yeah, and then I charged my character. It was the stupidest thing, but it was glorious, and everyone's laughing. And like, oh, you charged him? Oh, that's crazy. And you did a bunch of damage. Oh, that's crazy. What happened to him? Oh, he died. That my character super died. Cool. And everyone laughs and has a good fun, and it's a great time. And so, without turning too much into an after-school special, the sad truth about power gaming is that it will always be there, and the only really effective response is to just not care about it. And get yourselves to a place where maybe winning isn't the most important thing to you, because I gotta tell you, I have genuinely had more fun losing in 9th edition to some really good friends than I ever had winning against by pulling out the rules lawyering. So, something to think about. I'll quit preaching at you now, but this has been my take on power gaming, and if you hung in this long, I really do appreciate it. Hanging in this long helps me out. Hopefully, I gave you something to think about, or gave you a bunch of reasons to write in the comments about how wrong I am. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Seriously, I do want to hear what you guys have to think about power gaming. Have you ever had any super negative experiences with it? Let me know. I would like to see it down in the comments below. I would like to find out. I would love to have that conversation. Please do remember to like, maybe subscribe if you would like to see more. I have gameplay videos on Fridays, more hobby discussion videos like this on Mondays. I would love to see you on some of the other videos. But in the meantime, happy wargaming.
Onward to glory!